depth and options for the Raptors next season. A lot is changing in the Toronto Raptors universe. We've added in Grady Dick, who is likely to be a mainstay in the rotation next season. We've added in Marquise Noel, and I don't think he's going to be on a consistent NBA roster for the Raptors next season, but things are changing. We need to decide this week who we're going to bring back. Is Jakob Poeltl going to stay? Is Fred VanVleet going to stay? All these things are going to change. So let's try to take a look at exactly what this team could look like next season from a prediction standpoint, and then we'll talk about the depth chart and what that could look like for the Toronto Raptors. So, as far as what's going to go down this week, I still maintain my belief that Jakob Poeltl will stay. I still maintain the belief that Jakob Poeltl will stay with the team. All signs are pointing towards right now this team is ready to run this core back and see how far it can go. There's been nothing to suggest otherwise. All things are pointing in the direction of this team going forward and trying to win as many games as possible. As a result, I think Jakob Poeltl is going to stay, and there's going to be some conversations about Fred VanVleet. It's looking like, from a financial standpoint, it's going to have to be 4 years, $130 million to keep Fred VanVleet, or Houston offering 2 years, $80 million, or maybe as well 2 years, $70 million. So a lot of complications with the salaries here. So space needs to be made. What's going to happen to Thaddeus Young? What's going to happen to Otto Porter Jr.? Those are some conversations that need to be had with this team. Mark Stein reported that Jakob is probably going to re-sign near $20 million mark with us. I think that's what I would have guessed even when we got him. And my guess would also be Fred VanVleet gets $30 million. So we'll have to see as well what we can afford. So in order to keep Fred VanVleet and to keep Jakob Poeltl, you have to make some moves to open up some contracts. So let's go through the depth chart of what this team would look like if it did keep Fred VanVleet, because I still have the growing confidence that Fred VanVleet stays with this team. And we'll decide which one looks better. So point guard, obviously, VanVleet, Flynn, Banton. There wouldn't be any MLE room in this case scenario, so you wouldn't be able to get in a backup point guard. Noel, if there's space on our, well, I guess he's two-way, so he makes our roster here. Let's just say like actual guys who are going to likely be getting playtime. In the shooting guard department, Gary Trent, Grady Dick. In the small forward department, OG Anunoby. In the power forward department, Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes. Obviously, things are positionless, so OG likely slides to the 2 to start games. I view Scotty Barnes as a power forward. You could obviously call him a small forward. You could obviously put him in different positions. I know that. Over here, you'll have Poeltl. You'll have Achua. I guess we'll list Boucher as a 3. Again, it's positionless. We have Koloko over here. And as a result of getting VanVleet, you've lost Thaddeus Young, who you should lose anyways. He's guaranteed $1 million. You should move on from him anyways. But you also have to waive Otto Porter Jr. in order to make that money up. Now, where I would also consider seeing some action, hey, I kind of would rather keep Otto Porter Jr. and move on from Boucher. That's a whole different conversation, but it looks like if VanVleet is going to stay, it's going to cost you Otto Porter Jr.'s contract. So let's imagine this is what the team looks like with VanVleet. So let's try to imagine what it looks like without VanVleet on this team, if we're in better shape or if we're not in better shape. So in this scenario, we still have these guys here. We still have the centers. If we're on the assumption the Poeltl stays, we have Anunoby. Now we also add in Otto Porter Jr. And in the point guard position, the full mid-level exception opens up. Can that become Javon Carter? And you have Banton. You may be able to add in some other pieces in there, here and there, but ultimately, you've lost quite a bit of your shooting with VanVleet. You've lost a significant ball handler in your team, and I'm not sure how much. This is definitely a worse team. Can you add in other players instead? Is there a reality where maybe Trey Jones, you could pick him up as a free agent, kind of work on the efficiency there? Is there a reality where, Tyus Jones becomes available and you get rid of some contracts here to make that trade happen? A lot of different realities come into play here. Would love to get some thoughts here, though, as to potentially what this team could exactly become if you lose. It's not if you lose, because if he's gone, then maybe you wanted Fred VanVleet gone. But what would you make of the team? I guess we'll tack in him as well. Dowtin should also be here because Dowtin is probably Dowtin was the second best point guard last season. So my mistake. Let's put back Dowtin. What would be the starting five? I mean, the starting five, I think in that scenario, as much as I don't necessarily agree with this being the best spot for him, Scotty Barnes likely has to start in the point guard position for that team. This is just for the depth chart. Of course, the starting lineup is a bit different. It's like in the first one I have here. Anunoby slides to the 2 to start. Barnes doesn't come off the bench. But it's a complicated situation. For sure. If the team wants to win games, and the team wants to run it back and be successful, then Fred VanVleet is the obvious choice to bring back. If the team wants to focus on development, then the obvious choice is to let him walk or potentially find a way to sign and trade him. So there'd have to be some very important conversations in the next few days about what the Raptors want to do. But it appears as though $30 million for 3 or 4 years is on the table for Fred VanVleet to return to Toronto. I'd keep Fred and Jakob at $50 million combined, puts us $10 million over the cap. Salary dump somewhere else. Also, a way to go around it, you find a way to keep him. Can you salary dump in other positions? I'm okay giving Fred 30. I'm okay giving Pirtle 20. Now can you make up money maybe on Boucher's side of things and put Otto Porter Jr. in? I'd be quite a bit happier with this team over the other. Your starting five in this situation would be Fred VanVleet, of course. You'd slide OG up to the 2. You'd have Barnes at the 3, let's say. Siakam at the 4. Can't type. And Pirtle at the 5. That's acceptable from starting 5. It was a great starting 5 last year. In this situation, Barnes is your starting point guard because that's all you can really do. In this situation, you probably start Gary Trent. You bring in Gary Trent, OG at the 3. Siakam at the 4, Pirtle at the 5. I still think that team would have success as well. Maybe not as much success, and spacing would be an issue, but hopefully Grady Dick comes off the bench and helps you in that category. But what is the goal of this team? That's going to be the biggest question when it comes to this whole Fred VanVleet situation. Does this team want to find success? Does this team want to compete for a playoff spot? Because if they do, there really isn't that much in play for the Raptors to find a replacement for Fred VanVleet, right? D'Angelo Russell, I'm going to pass. He was spotted in the 6 because his girlfriend's from Oakville. So he was out here visiting and was hooping. He was hooping somewhere local. But I wouldn't want D'Angelo Russell. A lot of you guys don't like Fred. If you don't like Fred, you're not going to like D'Angelo Russell, trust me. But the Fred VanVleet situation is heating up. My prediction, I probably favor option A, prediction-wise. I think the ship has pretty much sailed in this being a development year. So if we're going to commit to winning, then commit to it. Don't half-ass it. Commit to winning. Bring Fred VanVleet back and see what this team can be. So that's the way I see this offseason going. Fred gets his 4 years, 120. Pirtle gets his 4 years, 80. We run it back. We've added in some shooting and Dick. We probably need more shooting for this bench. Because, you've addressed part of your need with Grady Dick helping the shooting, but you likely need some more shooting to this team still. If you're going to bring Fred back, I think it's important to bring Otto Porter Jr. back to have that additional shooting as well. So the offseason in general is going to be quite complicated. But let us know. What's your thought process on this Fred VanVleet situation? Where do you want it to stay? Do you want it to go? And How do you think they make room if he stays? You got to let us know.